Today I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, bring you a Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight, bring you comics news, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching the Comic Hero Show. Now kick that logo! Welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. And my heart goes out to all the people in the great continent of Australia. Since September, there have been wildfires that have ravaged the entire continent, and over 27 million acres of land have burnt. People have lost their houses, and it also costed the lives of 30 people, including 4 firefighters. And as of last week, there have been reports of rain and cooler temperatures that have brought about relief. However, there's still parts of Australia, namely the states of New South Wales and Victoria, that are still under fire. And you know, this is a sad situation. I mean, natural disasters suck, and I mean, for this to be going on for 4 months. There just are no words. But I know that adversity is temporary. So if you're watching this and you currently live in Australia, or you're from Australia, or you know somebody who lives in Australia, that adversity is going to end. And on this episode, I'm going to show some love to all the people in Australia. This is an Australia Comic Hero tee. Now this shirt is I mean, these are the colors of the Australian Olympic team, but it doesn't matter whether it's baseball, basketball, volleyball, or what have you. They're pretty much the face of all. The Olympic team is pretty much the faces of Australia, as well as some of the pets like kangaroos and koalas and wallabies and all them. And also go along with it, there's have the Australian flag on this sleeve, and then the continent of Australia with a koala and a kangaroo. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this is of course the continent of Australia, right between the words Comic Hero. And inside the speech bubble, there are koalas and kangaroos, and to go along with it, this Australian hat. But I personally know some folks from Australia. But even if I didn't know, I would still do this episode, because there's nothing wrong with helping people, even if you don't know them. And I just want to go ahead and say this: if you see someone going through, even if you don't know them, help them. There's nothing wrong with helping strangers. And and I wish that I could give monetarily, but I can't. So this is my way of letting y'all know that everything's going to be just fine. You're going to rebuild. Everyone who's lost their houses, you're going to have new houses built. The only sad thing about this is that the lives that are lost, because you can replace a house, a car, somewhere to work, somewhere to go to school. You can replace those things, but unfortunately you can't replace lives. And my heart goes out to anyone who's watching this who lost a loved one to these terrible fires going on in this continent. My thoughts and prayers are with y'all, Australia, and love y'all, and there's nothing y'all can do about it. All right, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. All right, on last week's episode, I asked, which U.S. city is the base of operations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Well, the correct answer is New York. And 24 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, their names have been entered in the drawing for a free team. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free team for this week's episode of the show is Caleb Pardue from West Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Caleb. You want yourself a free comic hero team. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode. Which comic book character is the first to be rebooted, meet his alternate universe self, and have their mantle inherited by their sidekick? Alright, now here's a hint. This comic book character has had two shows. One that was on CBS and another that is currently on the CW. And here's the second hint. John Wesley Shipp, Grant Gustin, and Michael Rosenbaum have either played the physical roles of these characters or they've done the voice of them. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. Alright, now the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown fight is usually reserved for viewers. I usually let viewers do it, but because I'm showing some love to all the people in Australia on this episode, I decided to come out with one, and this one features two Australian comic book villains. Actually, one of them used to be a villain, but now they're not anymore. They're now reformed. Representing DC, we have Captain Boomerang, and representing Marvel, we have Pyro. These two are gonna duke it out in a segment I like to call
the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown.
Welcome to the Comic Hero Throwdown Showdown. Today is Captain Boomerang versus Pyro. Captain Boomerang is a master of boomerangs, expert marksman and combatant who utilizes various trick and weaponized boomerangs. Pyro is a mutant who has a psionic ability to manipulate flame by shaping it as he desires, increasing or decreasing its heat, intensity, and size. He can't actually create fire himself, however, and consequently wears a specially insulated costume with a built-in flamethrower that can throw a stream of flame a maximum distance of 25 feet. He can psionically manipulate the flame to do whatever he desires, and sometimes induces it to take solid form as an animate flame being. Who would win? It'd be no surprise that Pyro would attempt to strike first. He'd unleash a huge stream of flame at Captain Boomerang, but the latter would throw a boomerang that would make circles around the flame and extinguish it. This angers Pyro, and he creates another flame and induces it to take solid form before slowly approaching Captain Boomerang. Captain Boomerang throws a metal boomerang past Pyro. Pyro says, "Oh, you missed me there, mate." Captain Boomerang replies, "I wasn't aiming at you, you dumb bloke." The boomerang comes back and cuts the course of Pyro's flamethrower. Pyro, out of anger, throws a punch at Captain Boomerang, but the latter whips the former in the head with a steel boomerang. Captain Boomerang wins, and that concludes this fight on the Comic Heroes Throwdown Showdown. Alright, well, I hope y'all enjoyed that fight, and I'll have another one for next week. Now it's time for Comically Speaking, so without further ado, let's talk comics! Alright, there are two things I'm going to talk about in this segment of Comically Speaking, and here's the first. I recently got finished reading the previous volume of Iron Man entitled Tony Stark Iron Man. It lasted 19 issues, and the last story arc was entitled The Ultron Agenda. It's where Ultron Pym, who is pretty much a combination of both the first Ant-Man, Hank Pym, and his creation Ultron. It's pretty much a cybernetic combination. Well, they end up coming to Earth, and their sole purpose was to turn everyone into cyborgs, including his former wife, the Wasp, aka Janet Van Dyne, and Jocasta, which is pretty much a robotic version of the Wasp. Well, but what they do first, they end up kidnapping both Wonder Man and the Vision, only to see if it would work, and it did work. And so he went on ahead and started making cyborgs out of folks. And this doesn't sit well, of course, with Iron Man, but it really doesn't sit well with War Machine, because at one point War Machine was a cyborg, and this happened. I'm not sure exactly when it happened. I want to say it was about um, 10 to 15 years ago in his own book. He ends up having, but he had since then had all the cybernetic parts removed from his body and was able to recover from that. But anyway, what happens is that while this is all going now, what happens is that Iron Man ends up becoming a cyborg himself, but this happened as a result of him trying to save Jocasta and the Wasp, which he successfully does. But one of some of his folks over at Stark Unlimited or Stark Industries, they end up saving him, and then but unfortunately, when they tried to save all the other folks that were turned to cyborgs, they died, and there was one theory that they came up with. Whenever Ultron Pym makes cyborgs out of people, he kills them. And they tried to tell him, hey, you need to stop doing this. This is what you're doing. And he's like, no, I don't believe that. So in other words, when he made a cyborg out of himself, he pretty much killed himself. They unfortunately were. But see, here's the thing. Now, you're probably wondering, how did Iron Man not die? Well, because at that point, there's only one reason that he died, that was only because Stark's body is pretty much is a duplicate of his original body, which unfortunately died during Civil War II, and that's why he didn't die. And the same thing with Wonder Man and the Vision. Of course, Wonder Man had died once before, but was brought back from the dead. And while this is all going on, Tony Stark's stepbrother, Arno Stark, who is the true son of Howard and Maria Stark. By the way, for those of y'all who don't know, Iron Man is he was adopted by Howard and Maria Stark, and he found out that his parents were agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and his mother is Amanda Armstrong, and his father is some guy named Jude. In other words, get this, Stark is actually British. He's not American, he's British. But anyway, he's looking on, and while he's doing that, he finds out that that Stark, along with all the other folks at Stark Industries, had made some kind of VR, done some kind of VR thing for all the folks throughout the world, and he found out that there was some kind of like his parents were part of the VR program, but unfortunately, it was just their consciousnesses rather. Sorry to all. I apologize to every English teacher that's ever existed. But what happens is that he finds out that when he shut down, Arno finds out that when Tony had shut down the VR program, he also shut down his parents' consciousnesses inside him, and he accused Tony Stark of killing them. And so what he does, he ends up making duplicate bodies of Howard and Maria Stark, and then transferring their consciousnesses into those bodies. And he said, okay, fine, you kill them, I bring them back to life. He never really knew his parents. Arno was actually he was practically born with all kinds of complications, and was kept inside, and was kept under all kinds of wires to save his life. But then Tony, out of gratitude, after finding out that he was adopted by Howard and Maria Stark, saved Arno's life and gave him a new lease on life. So yeah, but Arno, but he felt like Tony betrayed him by killing his parents. Of course, we all know that's not true. But then Tony ends up going to court, and he finds out that he reveals, he has to go to Congress, and then he he pretty much reveals to Congress that that's not really him. It's just his consciousness inside of a body, and then he gives up all of Stark Industries over to Banetronics. Now, Banetronics is this company that's this rival company that's owned by Sunset Bane, and so what happens is that they buy out Stark Industries and they fire everyone that works there, and then it's revealed that Arno ends up building his own Iron Man armor, and that's where Iron Man 2020 takes place, which is a 6-issue miniseries. It's actually one of the comic books I bought this week, and I'm going to feature that a little later on. All right, but anyway, I really enjoyed this volume. I hate that it ended the way that it did. I only hope something good could come out of this. I mean, Dan Slott delivered writing this book, and then Valerio Skitty, and then several other artists that have been on there, including Paco Medina, have done wonders with that book. I mean, just taking, the Armored Avenger to a whole new level. All right, now the second thing. Oh, by the way, if your name is Brandon Craven and you live in West Monroe, Louisiana, you may want to mute this. You may want to mute what I'm about to say. Of course, Crisis on Infinite Earths finally ended last week. I got a chance to watch the conclusion of it. Now the Monitor had come to Flash and said that you will die. Well, we have some good news and some bad news. The good news is the Flash didn't die. The bad news is the Flash from Earth 90 died. Now you're probably wondering, who is that? That's pretty much the John Wesley Shipp Flash from the old TV series that was on CBS back in 1990. That one. And then, other Earths had perished, and but then there were some that were spared, and then the Anti-Monitor was taken down by a ragtag group of members. There was the Flash, Black Lightning, Superman, Supergirl, Batwoman, and both Atoms. Talking about Dr. Ray Palmer and Dr. Ryan Choi, and also White Canary helped take him down as well, and Martian Manhunter. And then we found out something that was even awesome. I'm very excited about this. The Arrowverse merges with Supergirl and Superman's universe, and they also merge with the DC Cinematic Universe. So yes, it finally happened. Now the reason I said that is because a while back, my friend Brandon Craven and I were talking about that, and we were hoping that one day the Cinematic Universe merges with the Arrowverse, and by golly, it finally happened. And really excited about this new movement. Oh, by the way, at the end of Part 5, they established the Hall of Justice. Now, the Hall of Justice in the Arrowverse is previously the original location of Star Labs before they moved, and they assigned seats and assigned tables, and unfortunately, Black Lightning's universe was destroyed, and but at the end of it was kind of funny because there was a cage somewhere off in the Hall of Justice, and it had Gleek, and I'm thinking, oh dang. But anyway, I'm very excited about the Cinematic Universe and the Arrowverse becoming one. This is something that a lot of DC fans have wanted, and a lot of folks that don't really follow comics wanted as well. So I'm really looking forward to what comes next. All right, that's it for Comically Speaking. Now let's get to the comics I bought this week.
Comic books I bought this week.
All right, first up is Aquaman number 56. Avengers number 29. Batman the Outsiders number 9. Catwoman number 19. Deadpool number 2. The Flash number 86. Flash 4 number 9. Number 5, excuse me. 5. The Immortal Hulk number 29. And this is the book I was talking about in the Comically Speaking segment. Iron Man 2020 number 1. Justice League Odyssey number 17. The Legion of Superheroes number 3. Teen Titans number 38. Valkyrie Jane Foster number 7. Venom number 22. And finally, Young Justice number 12. Alright, that's 15, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 9,821. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for next week's episode of the show. Which comic book character is the first to be rebooted, meet its alternate universe self, and have their mantle inherited by their sidekick? Now remember the hints. The hint is this character had two different TV shows. One was on CBS and one is currently on the CW. And the second hint, John Wesley Shipp, Grant Gustin, and Michael Rosenbaum have either played the physical role or the voice of this comic book character. Everyone who answers correctly will be in the drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Kayla Pardue from West Monroe, Louisiana, who won a free tee on this week's episode. All right, now to everyone in Australia, I mean, I love y'all, and I mean, I know that y'all going through a horrible time with all these fires, and this has been going on for 4 months. But even when there's no end in sight, there's always an end in sight, and y'all will rebuild. Y'all will live in new houses. Y'all will work at new jobs. You will attend new schools, and to all those that have lost loved ones, if you've lost any of the 30 people, including the 4 firefighters in this during this ordeal, my thoughts and prayers are with y'all. Just remember, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord, and I know that all those people are with the Lord. All right, on next week's episode of the show, I'm going to raise awareness of cervical cancer. This is something that has plagued a lot of women, and it does per year. And I personally know some people that are some women who are survivors of cervical cancer. And it's such a sad situation when you go through any kind of cancer. It's a sad situation, but there's always hope, always. Just like everyone in Australia, there's hope. may not seem like it, but it's there. Alright, I don't know exactly where I'm going to get to first. 10,000 comics or the 300th episode. I'm kind of guessing right now it's the 300th episode. Right? Of course the count is now 9,821, but at the same time, that's still 179 comics away. So, and after this episode, there's still 6 more till I get to 300. So, right now, there's no way of knowing. Even I don't know. All right, I'm Victor Nunley on a Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 295. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and I love y'all, Australia.